All right, ladies and gentlemen, 9.2, and this one we're going to still be working with circles, only this time we're going to be working with area. So remember from before we were working with circumference, which is the perimeter or the outside, the distance around the circle. Now we're talking about the area. That's a terrible circle, but bear with me. We're talking about what's inside of the circle, okay? All those scribbly lines and then even those, and you get it. Okay, too much talking. Okay, so the area of a circle is equal to pi times the radius squared. Now remind yourself, what is a radius? So remember, let's get rid of all of my wonderful red lines. Remember, the radius is the distance from the center to one side, okay? The difference is radius is just halfway. So, and the diameter is all the way across. So those are the differences. So with area, we're going to be dealing with r, and we're going to be dealing with r squared. Okay, so r squared. Be very careful. That does not mean times 2. That seems to be the middle school mistake. It's a big mistake that middle schoolers make, okay? 4 squared is not 8. Okay, I get that all the time. It's people rushing through things. I know you guys know that this means 4 times itself twice. That's what squared means. So 4 times 4. So that is 16. Okay, it's very important that you don't do that. That's probably the biggest mistakes you're going to make is doing that. All right, so that being said, let's do a problem. This is a pretty straightforward section. Okay. It even tells you here you're going to use that 22/7 because in this particular case, my radius is a multiple of 7. Remember that when we're working with multiples of 7, we're going to use this 22/7 because then we can factor out the 7. Okay, so let's look. Let's always start by writing your formula. So area of a circle is equal to pi times r squared. Okay, so therefore area of the circle is equal to, we're going to use 22/7, and it's going to be times the radius, which is 7, squared. Okay, now I should have probably led with this. Okay, so now that what they want you to do is estimate, and this is a good idea, so then you don't accidentally mess up by calling this 14, okay? So if 7 squared is 7 times 7, which is 49, okay? 49 is about 50, right? And then 3 times 50 gives me about 150. So if you want to think about what could this be equal to before you start, it will help you to make sure that you didn't make a silly mistake. Okay. So 7 times 7, we said, is 49. So now we're going to have 22/7 times 49/1. We're going to factor out our 7 here. Here, let me use a different color just so we're clear. 7 divided by 7 is 1. 49 divided by 7 is 7. 22 times 7 is, let's double check, make sure I do this right, 154. And we expected it to be 150, so the area is equal to, sorry I ran out of space, 154. Okay, and that is going to be centimeters squared. All right. Let's do another one here. Okay, this one they tell us to use 3.14 because 26 is not a multiple of 7, and in this case, hopefully you're like, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be using radius. Yes, you are. So what is the radius if the diameter is 26? Well, the radius is half of that, so it's going to be 13. So my r is 13. So let's write our formula. It equals to pi times radius squared. Always write your formula, guys. It's just helpful because then you're like, then when you're trying to remember what the formula is, you've written it so many times. And then you're just going to substitute in, okay? And when you get to harder problems, they may give you the area, and ask you what the radius is. So you're used to writing this, and then you just substitute in, instead of substituting in the r, you're going to substitute in, if I gave you the area, then you would just put the area here and solve for r. Okay, so it's very important to get used to writing these down and substituting them. Okay, so pi, in this case, we're going to use the estimate of 3.14. And our radius is 13 squared. Okay, so 13 squared is 168. They're guessing 170. 170 times 3. You could have done that on your calculator, or just really quick come off to the side and done 170 times 3, which would be 510. Okay, and so we're expecting somewhere around 510. Like I said, 13 squared. If you don't know that, you can actually pull out your calculator, but that's one that we have memorized here. Times, and then the 3.14, and now I do need my calculator because that's a nasty 6-digit multiplication, or 3 digits on each top and bottom. So 3.14 times 168 gives me 527.52. I expected 510. That's pretty close. I definitely didn't make any major mistakes. I'm going to go with it. And that is correct. Okay, and now the semicircle. This is the same as the other one. If you'll notice, the only difference is if you don't look at these, it's just area equals pi r squared and then divide by 2. All right, this is no more difficult. You just take your answer and divide by 2. So if I asked you in this particular one, if I just wanted to know what this semicircle area was, right? Then it would just be 527.52 divided by 2. Okay, that's all a semicircle is. It's not rocket science. It's just divided by 2 because it's half of the circle. Okay, so let's just do this. So the area equals pi r squared, and I'm just going to divide it by 2 at the end. So what's my radius? Well, my whole side is 30. So again, my radius is going to be half of that, which is 15. So area is equal to, and this 15 is not a multiple of 7, so I'm just going to use 3.14 times 15 squared. Okay, so now 15 times 15 is 225. So 225 times 3 is like 600 and something. 225 times 3, that'd be 675. Yeah, 675. Okay, so I'm expecting somewhere around here. That's my estimate. It's a good idea to estimate. That way you don't make mistakes. So, like I said, 15 times 15 is 225. As you get into math, you will start to get these. I think it's important all the way up to 15 to know what everything times itself is. Up to 15. So that would be my challenge, is figure out 2 times 2 is 4, or 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is 9, and just memorize all those all the way up to 15. That's a good practice. So 3.14 times 225, and I get 706.5. Am I done? Nope. Why? Because that's for the whole circle. Okay? So don't forget that this was actually supposed to be divided by 2. Okay, so let's divide that by 2. And the area of the semicircle is 353.25. So you know what? When I did not put this divided by 2, I think I made a mistake for myself, because it wasn't built in. I didn't have it ready to go. So even though I know what I'm doing, and even though I find this to be a little bit weird and messy to have this in my formula, especially with this side, I think that we just figured out that I had to double think that. So let's make sure we're going ahead and putting the divided by 2 from the very beginning. All right. Okay, that's all I've got. I feel like these are going to be, I think there's a couple story problems, things to make you